There's something unsettling about nowhere. Empty corridors that seem to go on forever. Playgrounds that have no children playing on them. Streets that happen to shine under streetlight, but feel utterly forgotten. You've probably walked through spaces like these without even thinking twice. But sometimes you stop. You pause, and something clicks. That feeling? It's called a liminal space. Today, we are exploring one of the internet's most captivating obsessions. What are these strange in-between places? Why are we drawn to them? And what psychology reveals about their true power on us? A liminal space is a threshold. It's the moment between two states of being. The hallway between your bedroom and the living room, the train platform before the train arrives, or maybe even the waiting room at a doctor's office. These are spaces that are designed for transition, not dwelling, and that is exactly what makes them so fascinating. Anthropologist Mark Auger called these non-places environments lacking the total social markers that make us feel like we belong. But here's the thing, that emptiness that we feel isn't repulsive, it's magnetic. When a liminal space is quiet, our brains shift into high alert. We begin to notice things that we may normally ignore. The hum of fluorescent lights, the echo of one single footstep, the particular way that light falls through a window. These sensory details become lodged in our memory, and that's exactly where the magic happens. If you grew up in the 2000s like I did, you know this feeling intimately. Nostalgiacore is an aesthetic, and increasingly, a cultural movement centered on the sensory world of early 2000s childhood. Candy bright colors, plastic slides that are warming up in the sun, the smell of fries, and the sounds of children's laughter echoing off tile floors. But here's what's strange. Some of the most popular nostalgiacore images show these places completely empty. A Chuck E. Cheese's with no kids inside. A McDonald's play place after closing. A bowling alley after 3 a.m. Why do we find beauty in the absence? Research suggests that our brains are just simply reconstructing memory. When we look at these places as adults, we're not just remembering what it was like to be in those spaces, we're remembering how it felt to be small, to see the world as infinite, to experience joy in such simple things. Memory researcher John Hodgson puts it this way. It's not just recalling what happened, it's recalling how it felt to be that version of yourself in such an endlessly large world. The emptiness makes space for that feeling to resurface. Hello from your childhood. Where did you go when you were done? Weird animals. The void is my friend. It cannot scare me. It might rain soon. Don't you wonder what's inside? Dreamcore takes nostalgia one step further. It distorts it in such a way, like warping it through the lens of a dream. Imagine a playground where the swings hang in golden, impossible light, slides that stretch endlessly into soft, pastel-colored sky. Everything is just barely almost real, but not quite. This is exactly what happens when our brains try and reconstruct a memory. Colors become more vivid, edges blur, logic will soften. Dreamcore artists intentionally tap into this dreamlike quality, creating such of a work that feels simultaneously familiar but alien at the same time. The genius of Dreamcore is it captures something real about how we actually remember childhood. Our brains don't store perfect recordings, They often just store impressions, feelings, and sensory snapshots. Dreamcore visualizes that process, and because of that, it hits harder than straight nostalgia. It's nostalgia plus the uncanny. Not everyone grew up with playgrounds. For city dwellers, nostalgia lives in the margins. Urban core is the aesthetic of the urban commute, the echo of your footsteps in an empty station, the glow of a street lamp in a dark alley, a city park as the sun sets and everything around you vibrates with that liminal energy. Urban sociologist Rebecca Solnit has written about how the most profound moments of urban nostalgia often come in solitude, the early morning walk home, the quiet moment before all the bustling cities wake up. These are your moments with a city. Personal, intimate, slightly eerie. Every single element will contribute. The hum of distant traffic, the smell of damp asphalt in the morning, a distant air conditioner, the pattern of leaves caught in light. These aren't grand memories, they're the texture of existing in a particular place at a particular time. And somehow, looking back at those spaces makes even the mundane feel profound. However, our nostalgia is not limited to physical spaces. It can also extend into the digital realm. Frutiger and Aero refer to the aesthetic design of the early 2000s internet and operating systems. Rounded buttons, glossy textures, cartoonish icons, Comic Sans fonts, those little spinning loading circles. For millennials and younger Gen X, these interfaces are visceral memory triggers. They don't just remind us of what we saw, they remind us of how it felt to explore the internet as a young person. There was almost a sense of infinite possibility, how every single click led somewhere new. You could get lost in hyperlinks for hours, and the internet felt like a world within the world. Endless, mysterious, and of course, filled with wonder. Researchers call this digital nostalgia, and it's powerful precisely because it's tied to embodied memory. The hum of the monitor, the warmth of the computer tower, and the anticipation of a web page loading. All of that gets encoded into the memories and what we perceive, not just the visual design. Video games have become the ultimate playground for exploring these liminal spaces that I've discussed. Game designers use emptiness very strategically. An abandoned city at sunset, a deserted multiplayer server at 3 a.m., a corridor with graphical glitches that make familiar geometry feel somehow wrong. When a game space is empty, something shifts. You become hyper-aware of your own presence. You may notice the rust on a fence, the way sunlight catches dust, the particular quality of, for the first time, silence. Game design scholar Jesper Juhl calls this suggestive rather than prescriptive. The game is not telling you a story. You're creating it through your observation and your own imagination. And here's what's fascinating. Empty game spaces are sometimes more memorable than crowded ones. Your brain pays attention in such a way that it normally doesn't. You're cataloging each detail. You're lingering. You're present. Not all liminal spaces feel peaceful. Some may feel deeply wrong. Horror games have weaponized liminal spaces. They understand something fundamental about human psychology, and that is that we are exquisitely attuned to anomalies, irregularities, things that just don't quite fit. Evolutionary psychologists argue that this sensitivity made sense for our ancestors, as in a dangerous environment, noticing subtle changes could mean survival or death. Predators hide. Threats lurk in places that seem fine, but secretly aren't. Horror games tap directly into that ancient instinct. The fear is not always about what's in the space, it's about the space itself, the emptiness, the silence, and the sense that something crucial is missing. Your mind will fill in the gap. That is where the horror lives. In 2019, something strange appeared on the internet. A creepypasta on 4chan titled The Backrooms. If you're not careful and you no-clip out of reality in the wrong areas, you will end up in the backrooms, where it's nothing but the stink of old moist carpet, the madness of mono yellow, the endless background noise of fluorescent lights at maximum hum buzz, and approximately 600 million square miles of randomly segmented empty rooms to be trapped in. God save you if you hear something wandering around nearby, because it sure as hell heard you. The concept itself is simple but terrifying. Imagine accidentally clipping out of reality. Instead of the normal world, you find yourself in endless corridors of monotonous yellow wallpaper, humming fluorescent lights, and absolute silence. The backrooms became a phenomenon. Artists created visual interpretations, game developers built experiences around said concepts, and online communities elaborated the mythology with hundreds of entities. Online communities elaborated the mythology with hundreds of entries. And here is why it resonated so deeply. The Backrooms is essentially liminal horror distilled to its purest form. It's familiar enough that your brain will recognize these office buildings or hotel aesthetics, but it's simply wrong enough that your brain just cannot rest. The corridors, they loop. They go nowhere. You can't leave. Psychologist Shelley Adler notes, our minds cannot tolerate too much ambiguity. The more a space invites recognition, but withholds resolution, the deeper its psychological impact. The Backrooms withhold resolution forever. So that begs the question, why are we all collectively obsessed with these spaces? On one level, liminal spaces offer nostalgia. They let us revisit versions of ourselves that may feel lost. They give us simple permission to just linger in memory. But there's something deeper happening as well. Liminal spaces are honest in a way that most of the world isn't. They are simply in between. They're not trying to be anything. They're just there, waiting. Empty potential. In a world of constant stimulation, constant connection, constant noise, liminal spaces offer something very rare. The permission to notice, to slow down, to observe. They remind us that there's beauty in mundanity, that the spaces that we pass through without thinking are worthy of attention, that emptiness is an absence. It's a very, very simple but quiet invitation. Some spaces may make us nostalgic. Some spaces may make us uneasy. Some spaces may make us reflective. But all of them have one thing in common. They all make us pause. And in that pause, something shifts. Whether you encounter them in memory, in photographs, in video games, or in the actual world around you, liminal spaces have become a language for exploring something deeply human. They're about memory, about nostalgia, about the uncanny, about the strange beauty of in-between moments. They're about pausing in a world that rarely lets us pause. And maybe, just maybe, that's why we keep returning to these spaces. To nowhere. To find something extraordinary in the emptiness. What liminal space stays with you? And what in-between moment has marked your memory? Let me know in the comments below. And thank you for watching. My name is Dowoge, and always expect the unexpected. Because God save you if you hear something wandering around nearby, because it sure as hell heard you. Good night, everybody! Hey guys, Dowoge here. Sorry for the, lack of videos as of recently. Seasonal depression has been literally kicking my ass. And another thing, this is a crazy new style of editing that I'd like to hopefully continue. So, if you like it, leave a like. If you don't like it, leave a dislike, for all I care. I don't know. Anywho, if you did enjoy this video, please subscribe. It helps me out in the algorithm, and I don't really care about subscribers as much as I did back then, but I'm glad to still making these videos about, what I like. Anywho, I hope you enjoyed this video, and have an awesome night.